So leading the battle with those who had the courage to oppose Emmanuel Macron, but as you heard, Jean Messiha, more people abstained than voted for Marine Le Pen.
Yes, because I think this election is single of its nature, because it was not an election project against project. It was an election reject against reject. And what is fascinating about this election is for the first time in the history of the Fifth Republic, we did not have any political assessment or political record for Emmanuel Macron 5 years at power. I mean, nobody makes a political balance sheet of what has happened during these 5 years. Marine Le Pen, in her debate with Macron, did not talk about that.
And talked about cost of living, for instance.
Yeah, but you know, it was fascinating because it was Emmanuel Macron who was attacking her on her own record as a parliamentary. So this was kind of, something very astonishing. On the second hand, all the medias, I saw nobody from your fellows journalists make this exercise of telling what is the record of the policies that Emmanuel Macron had on France for 5 years. The sanitary policy, the budgetary policy, the internal security policy. Emmanuel Macron, it does not fall from the sky in 2022. Where is what he's done?
Our business center was going over 20 minutes ago, so it's going over all those policies.
So this is kind of fascinating, and of course there was a kind of manipulation in this election, because all the polls artificially cut the triptych identity, security, immigration into 3 parts, making the purchasing power arrive at the first priority of the French people. When the politics...
So the pollsters were lying when they put cost of living above identity politics?
I won't say that, but I will say that it's a single way to present things. You could put the triptych security, identity, immigration, the whole thing in the polls, and if they have done that, this item would have been the first priority of French. Instead of that, we have the purchasing power, and of course.
But that's because we have high inflation right now.
I'm not saying that purchasing power is not a priority, but it's a priority that is deducing from the way the pollsters present things.
But surely, no.
And just to finish, and after that, all the candidates, when they saw the purchasing power as a first priority, of course, it became the priority of the election. And Marine Le Pen,
your candidate stuck with identity politics, and he got 7% of the vote.
Because that's precisely what I'm saying. When it appears that Éric Zemmour will hold this priority in the presidency campaign, all the medias and all the pollsters make things in order to make Marine Le Pen be in front of Emmanuel Macron in the second round, because they know perfectly that only Éric Zemmour could have been capable of beating Emmanuel Macron at that election. Well, I do discuss the way that Madame is talking about the legitimacy of Emmanuel Macron. Nobody actually discusses the legitimacy of his election, but to try to understand what's happened, this is the very democratic way we have to be on televisions. So when you add
both Marine Le Pen and Éric Zemmour conceded defeat. They're not contesting the result.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is, if you take a look at the first round of the election, if you add all the left bloc populist, the right bloc populist, and the abstentions, you see that Emmanuel Macron is rejected by a big majority of the French people. And as I said, the second round, there was a forced election for Emmanuel Macron. The question was not which candidate I prefer, it's which I hate the less.
That's always the... Jean Messiha, Europe is stronger, you agree?
I don't think so. At least it's not stronger with Emmanuel Macron, because Europe is strong when its nations are strong. Emmanuel Macron considers himself as a president of everything except of France. He considers himself as a president of Europe, as a president of Africa, as a president of the whole world, and he considers the French presidency as a tool for its own ambition to build a federal European Union, which is he is the only one to desire
they're
this
united on sanctions. They pooled the purchases of vaccines.
Let's talk about that. Do you think that Europe was a success on the vaccines?
They were able to get the stimulus money that came.
Great Britain was outside Europe, the European Union, and it gets its vaccine first, way before the European Union. So don't
more
tell
French
us,
are vaccinated today.
Don't tell us that the European Union was a case of success for the vaccine. This is the first time. And the second thing is that nobody wants the federal European Union that Emmanuel Macron wants. In 2017, he committed a speech at La Sorbonne, in which he developed his vision of Europe, and after that, Germany opposed its own vision to Europe, which is a national vision. So while Macron is building a federal European Union, Germany is building Germany.
From Vladimir Putin.
Suffered from the accusation of the media of what you are saying. This is very different, because actually all the candidates have a way to talk to Vladimir Putin. There was a channel of conversation and of relationship with Vladimir Putin, beginning by Emmanuel Macron himself as a president who received Vladimir Putin in Versailles. He was not.
So does Eric Zemmour
so.
support arming Ukraine and support an end to imports of Russian oil?
Eric Zemmour, to the contrary of the other candidates, supports the peace. And you cannot be a man of peace if you treat one of the parties like Emmanuel Macron and other candidates are doing in insulting Vladimir Putin, in delivering offensive arms to Ukraine. This is not a way to solve such an international crisis and such a war. To get back to Europe, I think Germany has the means to force other European states to its own agenda, because Germany is the richest country of Europe. Emmanuel Macron, even if he's re-elected and comfortably re-elected, he will not have the means to impose his vision on Europe, nor his agenda, because the economic situation he leaves France during these 5 years is a catastrophe. So he will not be able to impose its vision nor its proposition to Europe. And you can measure the ratio of the GDP of the debt on the GDP in France?
I can't. I'm sorry. I'm useless with numbers. I'm completely disastrous.
It was 95% debt on GDP. After Macron is 120.
But remember, it's your ability to manage the debt and what you do with the debt that matters. It's not its absolute quantity.
Exactly.
That's a big.
And what is the more shocking?
And it was all about stopping businesses from going under during the pandemic.
Yeah, but we had another choices. This was not the only one, and not all the countries did that.
Jean Messiha, just a quick word because we're running short on time. Do you see an agreement between Marine Le Pen's party and Eric Zemmour's party on candidates for the legislative elections?
It's a mutual interest to do this, because if both parties present candidates in all the districts, there will be very, very few, even zero parliament.
But do you see it happening?
I think we will have local agreements, not national between the two parties, but there will be a local real politics.